growing up, it was always such incredible thing to watch these women play for their country with that jersey on. And when I was in the U18s, putting that jersey on for the first time and like really feeling it was a spectacular feeling. It was surreal, honestly. People always say that, but truly it was something new that I haven't felt before, and which was pretty cool.
Welcome to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that puts you right in the heart of women's hockey. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and each week I'm on a mission to showcase the incredible women who are lighting up the ice across the globe. Get ready as I chat with rising stars, seasoned pros, and all the game changers making waves in the world of women's hockey that you won't find anywhere else. So, let's dive into the exciting world of women's hockey and make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that brings you inside the world of women's hockey, one story at a time. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today's guest is Rory Guilday, a strong defensive defender who just finished her fourth season at Cornell and is known for her smart, reliable play and leadership both on and off the ice. Now she's declared for the PWHL draft, ready to take the next big step in her hockey career. Rory, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing fantastic. Happy to be here.
Great. And I'm so happy for you to be here and share your story. It's a really, really exciting one. But before we get to that, as has become a little bit of a tradition on the show more recently, we're going to play a fun little game to get things started, get a quick glimpse into who you are. And this is a game you genuinely have no idea, and I'm surprising you with this, so I'm excited to see how this goes. It's called Pick One. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to give you two options. You're going to go with your gut. You're going to pick one of the options, okay? How does that sound?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Okay, let's dive in. Early morning practice or late night game?
Late night game.
Okay. Pre-game pump up with the team, or are you focused on your own routine?
Pre-game pump up with the team.
Get home crowd energy, or are you silencing the road fans?
Home crowd energy.
Yeah. Are you an early riser or a night owl?
Early riser for sure.
Summer training or in-season grind? Which do you prefer?
Ooh, I like them both. Different ways. I don't know if I can pick one on that one.
Okay, that's totally fine. Do you prefer to be the underdog, or do you prefer to be the favorite to beat?
I like underdog.
Yeah. Everyone loves a good underdog story,
Yes.
Of course. Yeah, that's fair. Training day in the gym or skills session on the ice?
I'd say training day in the gym.
Team brunch or team karaoke night?
Oh, team brunch. Gotta go with the food.
I was really hoping you were going to go with the karaoke. I really wanted to find out what your song would have been.
That was tough, but I like karaoke. Just
okay,
food.
That's fair. Would you prefer to leave a legacy on the ice or off of the ice?
I'd say off the ice.
Great answer. All right, see? Nice and easy. We've already crushed one of the games today. We're cruising through this conversation already. How you feeling so far?
Great. Warmed up. I'm warmed up now.
Yeah. Warmed up and ready to share your story. And again, like I said off the top, this is a really, really interesting story and one I've been so looking forward to diving into, learning more about you. And every story has its origins, has its beginnings. And I want to start off, as makes the most amount of sense, right back at the beginning. Let's rewind the tape. Let's rewind it right to the beginning. What got you into hockey? Let's start there.
Well, obviously, growing up in Minnesota, it's the state of hockey, so it's kind of just what you do. It's the natural progression is crawl, walk, skate, I think. And my parents were always big fans. They never played, but they got my older sister into hockey. And I think a big part of that is that I wanted to be just like her. And I don't even remember it being like a choice. Like, I don't remember like choosing that. I think they just put me in it, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. This is great. I love it.
So and it's always interesting when you come from a state like like you said, Minnesota, where it's like it's in the water basically. Like it's innately you're like you just have to be in hockey, and that's totally fine. Did you ever feel any pressure, especially early on, that like you had to do this because, as you said, it's the state of hockey and it's just like it's in your blood kind of thing?
No, I wouldn't call that pressure. I would say that, like, I mean, I played a bunch of other sports too, soccer being one of them up until high school. And I'd say, like, it's just something super cool to be a part of more than pressure. Like, you know that there's so many incredible opportunities and, like, resources in Minnesota. So I think that, like, being able to take advantage of that and being grateful for that more than anything over pressure.
Okay, so thinking about that then, and I like that I like that you're not looking at it as pressure; it's more fuel, I
Yeah,
suppose,
yeah,
or
yeah.
inspiration. How do you think that shaped your approach to the game, and maybe also layer in the fact that you grew up as a multi-sport athlete as well? How do you think that kind of shaped your approach to hockey more specifically?
Yeah, I'm thankful that my parents put me in multiple sports to begin with. I think that's important for young athletes to not just kind of go all in on one too early. Developing skills outside of your game will help you with the game that you like in the end. But, anyways, um, met a ton of great people through both sports. And I think that just having all those opportunities in Minnesota definitely shaped the way I play the game, definitely shaped who I am today just because of the incredible people I've met and played against. And it's just a great place to come from. I don't know. I'm thankful that my parents were there and that sports are kind of the forefront of kind of what you do around there.
Yeah, and looking back, especially at the early days of your career, two-time captain, so innately like leadership is something that you were obviously demonstrating early on in your hockey journey. You're also a finalist for Minnesota Miss Hockey. How do you like when you think back to those experiences, being a leader? Especially with Miss Hockey, like that's something in Minnesota that's it's a really, really important award.
Mhm.
Like, how did the leadership roles, all of those things, how did that kind of also maybe fuel you or inspire you or drive you forward and into the kind of person that you are away from the ice as well as the player you are on the ice?
Yeah, I think I take great pride in being the captain of any team I've been on. I think that it comes from what my values are as a person. Being a kind person and a good human being first over anything else is super important. I feel like that's carried me through up until today and a reason why I've filled some of those roles. But I take great pride and great responsibility in those, and it's something that I'm very proud of. And I think that, yeah, it's a huge reason, a huge factor in where I am today.
And what were some of the challenges or the pressures maybe that you felt early on? And again, I know that you've kind of reframed pressure as fuel, and I love that. And I
Mhm.
think that's something that I'm definitely going to take away from one of the many things I'm going to take away from this conversation is just kind of reframing it. But
Yeah.
um, growing up, there are obviously still going to be those challenges, and even to this day, what were some of those challenges, and how do you think overcoming those challenges or those pressures of being involved in hockey, whether that's in the game, on the ice, or away from the ice, how do you think those help to shape you into the person and player that you are today? And what were some of those challenges?
Well, along with like anything, like you deal with a bunch of different personalities when you're in a situation like that as a captain or a leader on a team. You have to find a way to point people in the right direction and do it from a place of love. And I think that I started to learn that in high school, but I didn't fully understand the best way of going about that until, I mean, I'm still working on it today, and I think I will always be working on it my whole life. But I think I've developed better skills as a leader here at Cornell to a point where you can say things to your friends. It's hard, it's really difficult, but at the end of the day, they know that it's coming from a place of love and care. And I think that being able to have those hard conversations and be able to bring people together is really important, and a huge part of what that entails.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of that's a good segue into my next question, which is around the Herb Brooks Award. That's an award that you won, deservingly so, and that's an award which honors players who embody the values and characters of the one and only, obviously, Herb Brooks. Um, what did it mean to you to receive that award, especially early on in your hockey journey?
Yeah, that's an award that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and something that I take with great pride. And because more than anything, it's like less about what you do on the ice, but more about what you do off the ice. And I, that's, like I said kind of earlier, that's one of my core values. And kind of receiving that award kind of reinforced that within myself, that, okay, maybe I am doing a pretty good job of what I hope to be doing, And I don't know, I was just super honored to be associated with that award.
And especially now that you're looking at embarking on the next exciting chapter of your career, and it's obviously something we're going to be discussing in just a moment, but are there still those moments in which you're looking at that you look at that award, especially because you've said just how important it was to you, it is to you? Do you kind of go back to that every once in a while to kind of maybe ground yourself or remind you of the journey that you've been through, the values, your core values, and what you want to bring both on and off the ice? Is that a good reminder for you, this award?
Yeah, I'd say I think about it not super often, but when I do think about it, I'm like, yeah, like that's something to be proud of, and it is a great reminder, like continuing to do that and only build from that and just become a better and better human being every single day, and just kind to those around you.
And as an athlete, an important part of your growth and your development is also family.
Yes.
Family is something that, as a fan, we see the goals, we see the saves, we see the wins, the losses, all of those things, but we don't necessarily always get the chance to learn a little bit more about those that help to shape you. And so this is one of the things I think you're going to see quite quickly is a through line throughout our conversation today is how important family has been to you, to get you to from where you started to where you are now. And of course, this next chapter of your life as well. Let's just start off with how important was family in supporting you those early days and to now?
Yeah, it's the most important thing. That's impacted where I am today. My parents have shaped me into the human being I am today, with kind of the values they instilled in me when I was young. And not only that, but like towards the hockey world, they wanted me to be able to take advantage of every single opportunity that Minnesota had to offer, even like out of state. I'll just use Minnesota for example, but they'd bring me to any early morning practice, any skills shooting coach that I needed to get me where I wanted to go. And they could tell that this was my passion, and they fueled that. They pushed me outside my comfort zone, which I think I'm the most thankful for. There's things I didn't want to go to, but my parents believed that, like, they could tell before I knew when I was younger. I just didn't have those capabilities to understand pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is where you're going to grow the most. And I really am thankful that they did that for me. And just the countless hours showing up for the biggest games, but also staying for the worst ones is really really kind of them. And I wouldn't be here without them, and I'm forever thankful. And not only them, but all my extended family and also my siblings have been incredible supporters and probably my biggest fans, and give me that competitive edge too from an early age. So I have them to thank for that. And yeah, family's just everything to me. And they should feel that this is because of them too,
Yeah, and I love that you pointed out just, it's sometimes it's it's difficult to challenge and to push you outside your comfort zone, right? And especially as an individual, you live within your comfort zone. That's your happy place. But having
Yes.
those people that really push you as well, and that are doing it because they know how much you value, or how important this is to you, and how much growth you can see or feel and do once you are outside your comfort zone. Especially now, as you're looking at, or as you went into Cornell, which we're going to talk about in just a moment, and you're looking at this next chapter, it's straight ahead of you. How
Mhm.
much more important do you think it is that early on they were really challenging you, they were pushing you outside your comfort zone? How much do you think that helped to prepare you for these moments? Going to Cornell, that's scary. Jumping into the PWHL, that's scary. And those are things that are outside your comfort zone. How important do you think it was to have that, have them pushing you so early on in your hockey journey?
Very important. I mean, learning those skills early on is working on them, practicing learning how to adjust in those uncomfortable situations and give it a chance. And I think that that definitely allows you to develop skills that you can use today and continue to develop even further. But even more than that, what comes with that too is positive reinforcement that I received from my parents. They were always the most supportive and kind, and I don't think I ever came back after a game and they didn't say great game. Even if I played the worst game of my life, they're like, great game, so fun to watch you play. And they just prioritized my happiness. They're like, as long as you're happy, keep doing what you're doing, but if you're not happy, well, we love you no matter what. So I think that also gave me that comfort side where they're my parents. Like they love me no matter what, will support me in any passion I have. And I think just that combination is kind of pretty special.
Yeah, what a foundation to build upon both on and off the ice. And I think that's really important, right? Like you can only be
Yes,
so good on the ice if you have that foundation off of the ice and having that support
definitely.
system. And I can only assume that support has just continued and developed, and throughout your collegiate career into now this exciting, as you anticipate this exciting next chapter of your life as well.
Oh yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Of course.
I want to talk about, before we get into a lot of other really exciting things, as I continue to allude to, I want to talk about your style of play and being a defender, especially as, I mean, it sounds silly to say a good defensive defender, because obviously as a defender you want to be good on the defensive side of the
Right.
puck, but that's one of the things that I really that I really gravitated towards when it comes to your story, was just how sound you are on the defensive side of the puck. Um, was that always, did it come innate to you to be so strong defensively? Or maybe did you always want to be a defender? Or maybe was that, you just kind of fell into that role and you just kind of ran with it? Or maybe walk us through how that started for you on the defensive side, and what has helped you to become the great defensive defender that you are.
Yeah, definitely. I actually played center for a lot of my youth years. I think mainly because skating was kind of my thing. I could kind of just wheel around all over the ice, and as a center you can kind of participate in both ends and kind of be where you want to be and whatever. But I think that helped me in my transition to defense. I don't remember when or why I really transitioned to defense, but it happened. I think my skating ability really helped with that too, being able to skate backwards and just use your edges pretty well. Um, and I think I prided myself in that, but also kind of my intelligence on the ice. And I think as a D, constantly scanning and just kind of being aware of what's going on around you is pretty important. And I think that kind of also helped me out there. And yeah, just I think back to the year right before high school, and then entering high school as a freshman and playing varsity hockey. It just I had some really spectacular coaches that helped me kind of build that foundation of my defensive game.
And maybe also talk about the fact that you're, fun fact, also not a very small player. You are 5'11".
Yes, yes.
So also having that size, how do you like, how has that translated to the defensive side, and how do you leverage your size as your advantage when, like you said, I mean, you're a gifted skater, but being so tall, that can kind of counteract at times how good you are on your skates. How have you navigated growing into the size player that you are and still seeing the success at the level that you've seen?
Right. Well, I mean, I take up a lot of space out there. I'm tall and strong, and I think that that helps with my reach and being able to separate people from the pucks. I like to have physicality in my play just because it plays to my strengths, and I think I pride myself in that too. But yeah, just continuing working on my skating. You know, as I grew and as I got stronger, skating was still my foundation, and I needed to be able to move if I'm as tall as I am. That was important to me. So really continuing to work on that too. But yeah, I think it's just kind of natural, I guess. I didn't really think too much of it. It's just the way I am, and learn to work with it a little bit.
I do have to ask, are there ever those days? Now, I know that you said that you don't remember necessarily moving from forward to defense, but are there ever those days where you say to yourself, you know what? Maybe I want to just take one, maybe two shifts at forward. Maybe I just want to dive back into, being in the being on the forward side rather than just on the defensive side of the puck. Do you ever kind of wish you could do that again?
I mean, sporadically, not full on switch the position. I think I remember playing in Elite League, which is a league, and that was kind of in high school, and a mix of Minnesota girls. But sometimes we'd have low numbers, so I was able to play some forward again, which was always pretty fun. And but nowadays, much more comfortable being on the defensive end. I like being able to see the ice, but also I do get the urge to enter the face-off dot every once in a while. Like, I want to take that face-off and win it. Or sometimes when we're practicing shooting as defense, we'll have each other stand in front of the net to focus on shooting at sticks. Love tipping pucks in front of the net. So I'm like, I want, maybe if you just toss me in front of the net on the power play, I'll just tip some pucks and maybe just hold my ground. I'd love to try that out. It hasn't really happened, but I would love to.
Yeah, and not to go off too much on a tangent here, but we've seen that firsthand here in Ottawa with Rania Savalainen. She will often play specifically on the power play. You'll see her in front of the net, and it's
Pretty
always
sweet.
yeah, it's kind of jarring at first because you're so used to seeing defense play in a very specific spot in the ice, but especially for someone like yourself at 5'11", what, probably easily over 6 feet on skates. Like that's great screening for the goaltender, right? So that's yeah, maybe
I
we
think
could
so.
yeah, let's manifest that. Let's do that. Um, as we look at continuing through your career, a big area is your international experience. So before we dive into maybe more specifics there, when you look back at your time with Team USA, let's go back to that first time you put that jersey on.
Mhm.
What did that mean to you? And was that always a lifelong dream of yours to put that jersey on and represent your country?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's growing up, it was always such incredible thing to watch these women play for their country with that jersey on. And when I was in the U18s, putting that jersey on for the first time and like really feeling it was a spectacular feeling. It was surreal, honestly. People always say that, but truly it was something new that I haven't felt before, and which was pretty cool. And then moving up to the senior national team was even more special because that's the big leagues. That's the best of the best. And it just being able to take a moment to kind of soak it in and kind of be like, wow, yeah, here I am. But yeah, extremely a major honor and something that is very cool to this day. Always. Every time you put that jersey on, it's like, it's so special.
And how much does that fuel you? Having the opportunity to represent your country. Not everyone gets that opportunity. Obviously, not everyone gets the opportunity to play hockey, but especially at that level, representing your country, going best on best in the world. How much does that build your confidence every time you get that opportunity, every time you get that call, you put that jersey on? How much does that fuel you, when you go back to whether it's Cornell or you go back to whatever your upcoming PWHL team will be? How much does that fuel you?
Yeah, I think a lot. I think just more than anything, it's the basis of continuing to want to be better and better and better each day. And to play with and against the best players in the world is how, I've learned so much from being surrounded by such incredible people and incredible athletes, which I think has been the biggest takeaway of all my experiences with USA Hockey, is just how can you learn from each other and how can you continue to get better? Because in reality, there's always someone chasing your tail, there's always someone who's up next. And so how can you be the best you can be for that team and to make that team?
And not to mention the fact that, going back to your roots, the fact that there have been so many incredible athletes, specifically from Minnesota, who have also worn that jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Being a part of that program, playing alongside a lot of those really influential Minnesotans. How incredible is that? I know that you'd mentioned earlier that it really felt surreal to have the opportunity to wear that jersey, but you're wearing that jersey alongside your fellow Minnesotans, and you're really also setting the stage for future Minnesotans as well. Just maybe speak about that, and whether that's something you think about when you're putting on that jersey, when you're in the locker room, and you also know the tradition, just in general, the incredible women who have had the opportunity to wear that jersey ahead or before you as well.
Yeah, I think about that often. I think about when I was younger and I looked up to those girls on those teams, or even just my high school team, and I thought, wow, they're the coolest people I know. They're the coolest people in the world. I don't even really know some of them, but they're the coolest people I know. Then getting older and kind of becoming that for other young girls was kind of extremely special. You feel like you're making a difference. And I think that touching back on the Minnesota thing, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I take great pride in coming from Minnesota because of the density of amazing hockey players here, and truly growing up playing public high school hockey and still being surrounded by those people to compete against and have such a high level of play, something very special. So I think it's cool to come out of there just like some girls older than me and kind of show that you can do that from there too. You don't always need to travel to get the best of the best. It's just kind of in your backyard, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. You had touched on it just a moment ago as well, in terms of the international experience and there being really important lessons that you learned during those experiences. I want to hear more about that, and maybe, when you think back to each one of those experiences, each one of those opportunities that you've had to represent your country, when you walk away from those opportunities, those experiences, what are some of the biggest takeaways? What are some of the things that you've learned about yourself, learned about how you play, that you've now applied to, your time in Cornell, your time now as you look at this next chapter as well?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, I just thought back to kind of even starting at U18s, one of the biggest things I would always say to myself is, as long as you got to play, you have to do what you do best. You got to try your best to be the best you can be, because they're not always looking for the best players, quote unquote, but they're looking for the right one. So who's going to fit that mold? You never know if that's going to be you. So as long as you 100% of your effort and play to you and be you, that's all you can do, and the rest is out of your hands. like continuing to work on that, obviously in the off season. But in that moment, if you give everything you got and you play to what you got, at that point, you can feel comfort in the fact that you did everything you could in that moment, which I think is pretty cool and something I just kept with me as long as I've went. And that's kind of carried on when I've actually been on these teams, is they want you to be you. There are so many incredible hockey players out there with so many different skills. We don't always need 4 of the same people. So what can you bring to the table that someone else isn't, which I think has been one of the biggest takeaways I've had.
Well, and especially as you were talking, I was like, that applies now, especially now as you're looking at this next chapter. Just knowing the cards are going to fall as they may, but as long as you've gone out and you've done everything you can, then everything's going to work out the way that it's going to. And do you think that's helping you now that Cornell, and I know we're kind of jumping forward to jump back for a moment, but I feel like this is an appropriate place to ask this. Do you think that's helping you in this next, as you look at this next chapter, continuing with that mindset that you've held since your days, since representing your country for the first time?
Definitely. It helps to accept and kind of be excited for change. I think I'm really excited for something new, and wherever I end up. And I think that just being ready for that and accepting that challenge and being optimistic and positive about it, and it'll get you where you need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it takes the pressure off of you a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So as I know we're kind of jumping all over the place here a little bit, but I'm really enjoying this conversation. So we're kind of going wherever it goes. But
good.
Now the next chapter of your life was what you just went through. You just finished it. It's in your rearview mirror now, as I say.
Yeah.
You spent 4 seasons at Cornell. And before we get into the specifics of your time there, it begs the question, or we should start off with, what made Cornell the right spot for you to continue your career?
Yeah. I knew that I wanted to go somewhere, let me backtrack a little. It's kind of a thing when you grow up playing hockey in Minnesota to kind of stay around Minnesota. I feel like that's something that's kind of been known, but I knew that I kind of wanted to go elsewhere and try something new and be surrounded by a new group of people and kind of grow in that way and have something different. And so I was looking at a bunch of different schools, and I was getting towards the end of my process. I talked to Cornell a couple of times. I always tell this story, but they reached out to me. They're like, "Can you come visit, please? Like, we'd love to see you. We'd love to meet you. We'd love you to see the campus." I was like, at that point, I was kind of set on a different school, and my mom was like, "What's the harm? Like, let's just go." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, you're right." So we go and we visit, and I remember just kind of seeing the school, seeing the surrounding area, and then when I stepped foot into the rink and met the coaches in person and some of the girls and some of the staff members, I just immediately knew that it was where I wanted to be. And it was the people. The people are what got me here and what have kept me here, and what are the reason that I will forever look back at this place and be so grateful. But I just felt like it was the right fit. You could feel that they want what's best for you and will do anything to help you get there. And that's held true since I've been there, and forever grateful for freshman me for understanding that and feeling that and making that choice.
And you know what I heard there right off the bat was the fact that you went outside your comfort zone.
Yes.
Right.
I guess so.
Yeah. So, and it's great when it happens and you don't even realize it. And then you can look back and you can say, I pushed myself outside my comfort zone and look at me now. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by MB Performance Nutrition, fueling the next generation of hockey players. Whether your athlete is just starting out or chasing next level performance, MB Performance Nutrition has free resources to help, like a meal timing guide and protein powder buying checklist. Founded by Melissa Bufunos, a certified holistic nutritionist and former elite hockey player, MB Performance Nutrition also offers one-on-one coaching. team workshops, and more. Learn more at melissabufunos.com. That's MELISSABOUFOUNOS.com. So let's talk about Cornell. How, and you can kind of take this in whatever direction you want to take it in, but just talk about the experiences at Cornell and how you think your time at Cornell, you went into it feeling like it was the right fit, both on and off the ice. Now that it's behind you, how do you think it's helped you to grow into the player you are, of course, but also, as importantly, the person that you've become?
What immediately comes to mind with Cornell, I'll come back to the people, but the overall experience, the rigor of both school and hockey at the same time kind of forced me to pick up some skills to deal with that. Time management being a huge one, and finding balance in my life between school, hockey, social, and just overall well-being. It took time for me to understand that and to figure that out for myself and what that meant for me. That was something I'm still working on up until this year, and I'll keep working on that. Just having those experiences that will push you to grow and to become a better student, hockey player, person is what this place is all about. And lifting each other up. I mentioned the coaches and the staff. All my coaches are incredible people, first and foremost, and they care about you as an individual and as a human being before they do as a hockey player. And I think that kind of love and care is rare, and especially in a sport where it's kind of your job to be there. You're there to play hockey for them, but they care about us as people, and they want us to succeed in more ways than one. And so my coaches, obviously, all the ones that I've had here, and then also even our athletic trainer and surrounding staff have been incredible influences in my life. And I'm so grateful for that, and that this place has brought me to them.
I really appreciate that you also organically brought up how important it was for you, or one of the biggest lessons that you've learned and you continue to work on is that balance. Because I often say this, but I dropped out of university. It's really tough to be, to be so focused on your academics and to be achieving your goals in academics, maintaining your high GPA, while also being a great athlete and continuing to develop on the ice. Especially at a prestigious university in Cornell. Plus, also, as you mentioned, wanting to have a social life and maybe have a life outside of hockey. I can't imagine how difficult that was for you to. It's like you're getting a crash course in how important it is to balance all of those things. How much do you think? And I know that you mentioned that you're still working on it, but how much do you think finding that balance and understanding that it's just as important to be good on the ice in the classroom, but also away from all of that? How important do you think it was to kind of to realize that, or maybe have that instilled in you throughout this process?
Super important, because then you don't want to be giving away too much of yourself that you don't have to give. So if you can find that time for yourself, which whether that may be, mostly for me, it was away from the rink to kind of recenter myself, surround myself with friends, or even just having like quiet alone time in my room. I needed to find ways to find time for myself for that, because then I could be the best me I could be in school and hockey. And also understanding that it's never perfect. It's never perfect, and you kind of have to figure that out. There's ups and downs, ebbs and flows to all of it, and kind of accepting that and being okay with the fact really gives you a peace of mind and the ability to be flexible with your schedule in those time spaces that you have available. Sometimes you have to prioritize yourself over an assignment. For me, that was the case. Sometimes it wasn't always ideal, but like in that moment, if you got to do what you got to do, you got to do it. So just learning about yourself and just allowing yourself to take that time and be flexible.
And I feel like this also lumps in this next question quite well, in that um, during your time at Cornell, you also were a part of the leadership team, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
um, I want to know as well, when you think back to being a leader on that team at Cornell, what does leadership, let's start with what does leadership mean to you? And how has maybe that evolved during your time at Cornell?
Yeah, I think that I used to think of myself as, or I've been called a natural leader, and that's, or a lead by example type of leadership style. And I sometimes, like, that felt good because it felt like it was part of who I was. But also, I realized that sometimes that's just not enough. Like, you can't, or actually, let me just say that it would be actually, it's not a passive thing. Leading by example or being a natural leader is not, it can't be passive, because at that point you're not doing your job. It has to be something you're actively thinking about and actively aware of. And I think learning that and learning to work on that was a big step in success for that role. But just being aware of those around you, knowing your teammates and knowing what makes them work and what makes the group work, I think is really important as a leader. And just being observative and taking it with a positive attitude and doing what's got to be done.
I have so many questions, so many more questions to ask you, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about your future. So I think let's fast forward a little bit to now this moment here. You're on the verge of obviously your first draft. So I want to say, before anything else, congratulations on declaring. This is a huge milestone in your hockey journey. So congratulations, round of
Thank
applause.
you. Thank you.
What does this moment mean to you?
It's pretty special. It's something that it's exciting. Before, you kind of, like, when a couple years ago, even before the league developed, it was all kind of unknown. Like, there wasn't anything set in stone, and that kind of that can be a little unnerving when you're thinking about what you're going to do after college, especially if you want to keep playing. You're like, what's the move here? Like, what's the path? Because I honestly give the older girls who are in the league, so much credit for sticking with it, because that'd be hard to not know where you're going to play games, what you're going to do for training, having a team to lean on in certain moments. Like, that's difficult. But I think that I am super excited that it's available and that it's within reach, and that I'm hopefully going to be a part of it. I think that is something that is so cool and something to look forward to. And I'm really looking forward to it.
And thank you for highlighting that, because I think it's obviously worth mentioning that, even like you said, even just a couple of years ago, you're going through your collegiate career and you're saying, hey, listen, if I want to continue this, and
Yeah.
I love this, it's either I go overseas, or maybe I'm waiting for my opportunity with the national team, right? And those
Yes.
are both great opportunities, of course, but nothing would beat the opportunity to be able to play full time in a professional league, best on best, every night, game in, game out.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity to see this grow, the growth of the PWHL from the outside. And obviously, Minnesota bringing it back home, state of hockey, wins it last year, is in the finals again this year. Just seeing that growth and seeing the fan reception, you've been going through this through your collegiate career. You're seeing the fan bases grow, the attendance grow. What does this moment mean to you as well, just to see this growth and to see this passion from the fans' perspective, knowing that you're about to be a part of it? You're about to be one of the essentially one of the foundational players, right? Like, when you think about it, you're in on the ground floor at this point, and it's only going to grow from here, and you're a big part of that. What does that mean to you? And do you feel, I was going to say pressure, but we talked about that before. You don't feel pressure, it's just motivation.
Yeah. I think more than any, like you talked about the fans, I think the fan involvement has been something so cool to see, and something that one of the things I'm most excited for is how much people have cared about this league. And I think it's been huge for not only women's hockey, but also women's sports in general. I think it shows like what we're capable of, and people are interested in it, which is really cool because that's what we've been trying to say all along, you know? But I think it's going to be something super cool to be a part of. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it.
Okay, so as we look at winding down this conversation has flown by, which is just incredible. I really appreciate you taking the time. I want to know, from your perspective, when you think of the next generation, those young girls who are growing up, whether it's back home in Minnesota, whether it's anywhere else, they're dreaming about a career in hockey. What advice might you give them as they look to pursue their goals?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, an obvious one would be work hard and have fun, but I think that's really true for a lot of different ways. But also use your resources around you. Ask for help. People want to help you. People are willing to help you. So use those resources, and most importantly, find ways to keep having fun. That's what's going to keep you in the game. No matter how many different sessions you have, whatever, what's going to keep you in the game is your love for the game. And I think that's what's helped me continue to grow and continue to succeed, is my love for the game and my want to get better because of that. It's for me. It's because I love the game and I want to just keep rolling. So finding ways to cultivate that and maintain that is really important.
Yeah, and especially because there can be challenges, there can be obstacles that you have to overcome. But if you remember just how much you love it and you find new ways to love it, it'll motivate you and inspire you to get through those moments. Is that fair to say? Is that something you felt in your own journey as well?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to end today's conversation as I always do in these conversations. And that's a segment that I've called the rapid fire question segment of the show.
Awesome.
And so what I'm going to do is, much like at the beginning, I'm going to throw you, in this case, it's just one option, but I want you to just go with your gut. Tell us, give us your answer, and we'll see if we can learn just a little bit more. What is your go-to pregame meal?
I'd say some sort of chicken or protein and some carbs.
Okay. Favorite cheat meal or treat?
I love pizza.
Oh, and I try not to ask any follow-up questions, but I need to know your toppings because pizza is my go-to.
See, I'm not picky and I like so many different things, so that's a very difficult question, but I do love pepperoni, sausage. I also love a supreme pizza with all the veggies on it. Seriously, anything. Margarita pizza, all of them.
Wow, no
can't
hesitation.
choose. I can't choose.
No hesitation. I love that. Do you have any superstitions or pregame rituals?
I always have to take my stick before the game, but also this is kind of a during game ritual too, but I'm always chewing gum. I always need a fresh piece in between each period.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Go-to pump-up song?
See, that changes a lot too. That really just depends on the day. And I like so many different genres of music, and it seriously depends on the day. Can't choose.
Speaking of music, who owned the dressing room music this past season, and what was played most often?
Since I've been at Cornell, actually, one of my best buddies, Lily Delianides, has been on the aux cord the whole time, and yeah, she rocks it. What did you ask? What song she was playing? What song she plays?
What song did you remember being played most often, or maybe what genre? Because I feel like that might be an easier way to answer that.
She loves EDM, so we'd have a lot of EDM, but also we kind of developed some. She's pretty superstitious too, and so we'd listen to the same songs most days in a row in the locker room when we're like putting on our gear or something. But EDM for sure.
What's one thing people don't know about you?
I love to go fishing.
Okay.
A lot of people know that, but that's something different.
Yep, that's fair. What's one word your teammates would use to describe you?
Hopefully kind or funny.
Okay,
I'll
that's
take
fair.
both of those.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. What's something that remains on your bucket list?
Ooh, I would love to go to Ireland at some point in my life.
Okay. Last one for you. When people look back on your career one day, it's now you've retired. Okay. What do you hope they say about you?
I feel like this might be a sidestep to the question, but I think more than anything, I just hope they would think I'd be a good person and a great friend, and hopefully some sort of person they can look up to. But yeah, I think that more than anything.
Okay, yeah, of course, yeah. You always want to be that great role model, whether it's both on
Yes.
or off the ice. Of course, I like that. And that's a perfect way for us to wrap up today's episode of Rinkside Rundown. A big, big thank you to you, Rory Guilday, for joining me and sharing your incredible journey from your early days in Minnesota to representing Team USA on the world stage and now stepping confidently into the professional ranks. Rory, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy off season as you prepare for said professional ranks to join the show, to share your journey, for being just so open and honest. And like I said earlier, this conversation's flown by and you're a big part of that. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I really enjoyed this. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. And if you enjoyed this episode as much as the both of us did, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow hockey fans. Your support helps us to grow and bring you more inspiring stories from around the world of women's hockey. I'm Chris Sinclair. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Rinkside Rundown.